Hello and welcome to DartBucket, and in today's tutorial we'll learn how to build a basic Flutter Notes app. This is going to be a beginner tutorial. So right, as you click on the plus button, you will see this new note screen where you can pass in a title and pass some description, and as soon as you click on this save button, it saves the note. You can open, you can read it, and you can also delete the note. As soon as you click on delete button, you see this kind of uh, pop-up that asks you whether you wish to delete the note, and you can go for it and say delete if you wish to, and you can also cancel it. By now what I'm expecting is that you have already installed Flutter on your system. If not, you can head over to flutter.dev. You can go to get started, and from here you can download and install the Flutter for your respective operating system, for Windows, Mac OS, Linux or Chrome OS. Alright, so let's get back to the Visual Studio Code, and right here what I have to do is Command Shift P, and it's going to be Control Shift P for Windows. I'm going to say Flutter and select the very first command that says new project. I'll select the very first option here as well, and I'm fine with the folder location. Alright, now I can give a name to my application, so it's going to be Flutter Notes. You can use whatever name, but keep in mind it should be in small case, and don't use spaces, instead use underscore, right? Alright, okay, so this generates a template Flutter project for us. Let's quickly open our iOS simulator, and for Windows it can be an Android emulator, it's all good. Okay, so I'll select my simulator. I'll quickly run the code. Alright, so this is the very basic application that Flutter gives you in the beginning. So as you click on the button, it just keeps incrementing the same value. Alright, so we don't need all this code that Flutter has generated for us. So we can go ahead, remove all these lines, and we can comment out line number 27 just to make linting little happy. Alright, we can delete all these comments. Okay, so what we know is, don't worry if this has gone black for you, because we are not passing anything in the home. Alright, so to create the very first screen, the home screen of our application, we'll first create a new folder and call it screens, just so that we can hold our different screens in a different folder, and we'll make sure that every screen has its own very file. So we'll create a new file and call it home screen. Alright, and in home screen we'll be having a stateful widget. Why? Because there's a list there that keeps on updating. In case if we had a widget that was not updating, we would have gone with a stateless widget. So to create a stateful widget, we have a shortcut. We can type stf, we can select this option that says Flutter stateful widget, we can hit enter, and generates the template for a stateful widget for us. We are going to call it home screen. Alright, okay, and from the build method we will return a scaffold. In this scaffold we are going to have an app bar, and we'll pass the title to be as a text widget, and the title should be Flutter Notes. That works. Alright, I'm going to save the file. Okay, we don't see any changes because we need to point this to our home screen that we have built recently. So I'm going to say home screen, add one commented as well. Okay, I can say home screen. All right, and it automatically imports it for us. Okay, so it shows us a blue squiggly line. What we can do is we can say const here, because it knows that it's not going to change. We know it's not going to change. So yeah, and we see a very basic blank scaffold here with an app bar that says Flutter nodes. Okay, so what we can now do is we can also, say brightness to be brightness dot dark, so that we get that beautiful dark theme. Okay, there we go. All right, the next thing that we have to do is we need to have a button here that can take us to a create node screen, right? So we will come down, okay, and we'll pass in a floating action button. We'll say floating action button, and it should have an on pressed method. We can as of now give it an empty function so that it doesn't throw us an error, and it should also have a child. Although if we save it, we'll say a very plain simple floating action button, but at least we should have a plus button, plus icon, so that we know that it is to create a node. So, and we do that by saying child, and we pass in an icon and give it an icon data of icons dot add. Okay, this works. We can save it. All right, and because of this squiggly line, we may pass this const so that it goes away, and a const here as well. All right, so this is the very basic home screen that we really need. Next, we need a place where we can create our nodes. So we will go ahead in the screens folder, right click, select a new file, and we will say create node. All right, and this again is going to be a stateful widget. Why? Because we will be dealing with two text controllers here, text editing controllers to be specific. Why so? We will see it very soon. I'm going to say Flutter stateful widget, and I'm going to call it create node. All right, and I'm going to pass once again a scaffold here, or return a scaffold. We are going to have an app bar, a title, and the title again we are going to have a text widget where we will say new note. All right, and again we can mark this constant, because yeah, definitely it's not going to change and we don't want rebuilds on this. Okay, so next what we have to deal with, we have to somehow bring create notes page on top as soon as we click on this button, right? So to do that, we have to use the navigator. So inside the on press of this floating action button, we'll say navigator cut off context dot push, and I'm going to say material page route. This takes in a constructor, and we need to return the page that we need to navigate to. So we'll need to navigate to create node. Okay, there we go. And once again we can say const just to make the squiggly line disappear. All right, that makes sense. Okay, we can quickly test it. Let's just tap on this button. Okay, there we go. A new node screen opens up. Good stuff. We can remove the unused imports. Okay, so in our create node screen, there are two properties. One is a title and the other is a body, right? So we'll need two text editing fields for that. So we do that in the body, and inside the column, because it's one below the other, and that's why we are using column widget here. All right, so this is our first text form field, and we can again copy this, and we can have a second text form field. We will save it. We'll navigate to new note. Okay, now we see two text fields here. Alright, now we need to customize them so that if there is nothing in the text field, it shows title over here and it shows body over here. And I'm talking about the hint, as well as we need to increase the size of the input because it's pretty small, right? Okay. Let's talk about the title first. So for the text field of our title, we will say style, and let's make it constant from the beginning because we know it's not going to change. We need to say text style, and let's pass few properties. All we need to change is the size, so font size, that's past 28. All right, and as for this underline or this borderline, we don't need a borderline there, and we are going to make it disappear. So we are going to say decoration, and inside decoration we'll pass input decoration. Okay, that works. And we are going to say border, and border we are going to say input border dot none. As we save it, it just disappears, and you can see the text size has also increased. Alright, that makes sense. And also we can mark this constant just to make the squiggly line disappear. Alright, let's pass hint as well. And let's say title. Okay, there you see the hint is visible now, and maybe we can copy some of these properties and then reuse them for our body field as well. Okay, we can reduce the font size to something like 18, and we can call it body, or let us call it your story, just to make it something creative. Alright, and after this all we need a little spacing, and for spacing we are going to use size box of height say 20. I guess 10 is sufficient. Alright, and again we are going to mark this constant just to make it happy. Okay, now we see if there's some extra space from the edges, it might look better. So to add the space, we call it padding. So to add padding, we need to wrap it with another widget. We can click on column, and the bulb that appears here, we can click on it. We can say wrap with widget, or we can directly say wrap with padding. As soon as we do that, it automatically wraps this into a padding widget and also passes some padding for us. So let's make it 10 instead of 8. Quickly save it. Okay, this looks much better. Alright, now just so that we can capture the values that the user inputs, we need controllers for these text fields, right? So to create the controllers, what we'll do is we'll come out here on top, and over here we're going to create two text controllers. So we are going to say final title controller, and call it a text editing controller. We'll create a new text editing controller, yeah, just like that. And then we need a body controller as well. There you go. So we have both the controllers, and we need to also point these controllers to these text fields. So let's assign the controllers. So it's a title controller, and out here this is a body controller. just like that. And we can again remove the unused imports. Okay, cool. Now just to store our nodes, we need a class, right? So let's quickly right click on the lib folder and create a new folder there, and we're going to call it models, because yeah, definitely it's a model for our node. And we'll create a new file. We can call it node model dot, and we can say class node, and all we need are two properties. We can say final string title, and we can also say final string body. Just like that. Okay, now we also need a constructor, so we can take the help of Visual Studio Code itself, and it's suggesting us to create a constructor. Okay, we can ask him to create a constructor for us. And there's something different we are going to use here. We'll be using named parameters so that we know which parameter are we passing. And since we are using named parameters, we need to also pass whether they are required or not. So yeah, both the fields are required because these are nullable. Yes. Okay, this makes sense. Let's get back to our home screen, and over here what we are going to do is we will create another variable, and we'll say list of nodes. We're going to call it nodes. As of now it's going to be empty, and we'll quickly do some imports. Now we see there are two imports. The first one is a relative import, and the second one is a complete import. We're going to go with a complete import because it's very helpful to us if you are doing any kind of refactoring, or if you are kind of renaming the package. So that's the reason we go with the full import, so that tomorrow if you wish to change the package name, it is very easy for you to identify and change it very quickly. All right, so that's that. And instead of this, what we can also do is we can say list.empty and growable true. Why growable? Because literally we mean by growable because so that it's going to be an empty list in the beginning, and as we keep on adding nodes, the list keeps on growing, right? Okay, so that's that. We'll create a new function, say void on new node made, let's say created. Another function on node deleted. Okay, so in this function on node deleted, all we need is the ID of the node that is being deleted. So we're going to say not ID, actually it's going to be the index of the node in the list. So we are going to ask for the index, and in here on node created, we're going to ask the user or the function to pass just the node that is being created, the new node. We can just call it node, right? And as soon as this function is called, what we want to do is we inside our nodes we need to add a new node and also call set state. Well, we call set state so that once a node is added to the list, once this value is changed, it should rebuild the widget just so that the new change is visible to the user in the UI, right? And the same thing goes for this as well. So we can say nodes dot remove at, we'll pass the index, and once again call set state after that, so that if once the node is deleted, we're able to see the change that the node is really deleted. Okay, we can save this. All right, cool stuff. Now let's construct the body. So in the body of our home, what we are doing is we are simply showing us all the nodes that are visible, that are available in this list right here. Okay, so the body should be a simple list view dot builder, it is going to have the item count of the length of nodes. So it's going to be the number of nodes available in the list. Okay, and next we need to pass an item builder. So we're going to say context and index, and we need to return a widget to that particular index. Okay, now as we see, we need some sort of card thing, so we're going to use the card widget here. Inside the card widget, we need maybe some padding, so we're going to add some padding here. So inside child, we'll have a widget called padding, in which we'll add some padding, and again we'll use const so that we don't see the irritating squiggly line. Okay, and we see the squiggly line once again. Anyway, we can ignore it. And the child of the padding, we are going to pass a column. Why? Because we are showing the title and the body one below the other, so that's why we are using column. We're going to say text, okay, and the text, we need to show the title of the note on this index. So we're going to say notes, and we'll take out the note on this index, and then we'll show the title just like that. Okay, so it still has a squiggly red line. Okay, so it should be inside the children. Okay, there we go. Error's gone. All right, now let's quickly add some styling to this, and let's keep it pretty simple. Let's say text style and just have some font size, maybe 18. Okay, let's have 18. Okay, we'll use 18 for the body. Let's put 20 here, and again mark it const. We'll copy this text, paste it here, and instead of the title we'll reference the body, and also we'll add some spacing. Alright, there's our spacing, and that's that. We'll also need to take care of the length of the body. Suppose that the body can be multi-line as well. So just to handle such a case, we are saying max lines to be 2, and if there's an overflow, we can say text overflow, so that it just shows us 3 dots if there's more text than there's visible. Alright, there you go. So this is our card widget that will be visible to the particular note. Okay. Alright, in our create note function, once when you click on the button that saves note, we need to call a function. We need to call on note created so that it is visible on the UI, right? For this purpose, we need to pass this function over here to the create note page, and then call it from here, right? For that, we are going to say final function, and this is one of the superpowers of Dart, that yes, you can pass functions through the parameters. So we can say function, and it's going to take in a note, and this will be called on new note created. Okay, and it doesn't know what note is, so we're going to quickly import this, right? We're also going to say required this dot on new note created. Okay, so on our home screen we'll see an error. So it says we might not be able to pass const here, and we need to pass this function on new note created. We'll say on new note created, Keep in mind that we are not calling this function, we are just putting its name there just to pass it. Okay, so we are not using these parentheses, we use them only when we are calling it. We are not calling this function, we are just passing it, right? All right, now we can save it. We can go back to create note. All right, in our create note we need a button down here that can be clicked whenever we wish to save a note. So we can go into the scaffold and just after the body we can say floating action button. We'll create a new floating action button, and just like we did previously, we will say on pressed and pass in an empty function as of now. And for the child we can say an icon and pass in the icon data of save. I'm going to save it, and again we're going to mark it constant so that it just doesn't give us the error. Somehow it is invisible. Let's quickly rerun the app. Alright, so it's visible here. Okay, in here what we are going to do is we are going to check whether the fields have some value or not. So to check those values, we have used the controllers. If you remember, we made a title controller and a body controller. So we'll take out the values from them and we'll check if title controller dot text, this is where the value we get if the user has done some changes, and we'll check is empty. If it is empty, then we are going to just simply return, and we're going to do the same thing for body as well if the body is empty. So we're going to say body controller dot text dot is empty. All right, and if they aren't empty, then we'll create a new note, object of a new note. We'll say final note and say note. We're going to see body. So body is our body controller dot text, and title is our title controller dot text, right? And once we have this note object, what we can do is we can call this method on new note created. So we can call it by using widget dot on new note created and pass this object that we just made. All right, and once we call it, we also need to navigate the user back to the home screen. So to do so, we are again going to use navigator. So we'll say navigator dot of context dot pop, and there we go. All right, let's quickly restart the app. Okay, let's try to create a new note now to say title. Flutter is awesome, and save it. Okay, so it just saves, but it appears to be in center, right? And it doesn't look so good. So what we can do is we can again come over here to our home screen, and inside the column what we will do is we'll pass a property, say cross-axis alignment, and the cross-axis alignment we're going to say dot start. Okay, so we see the title and the body the way it looks better. Alright, before moving forward, let us quickly do some cleanup here. So we can see this card widget. We're definitely sure this is not going to change, and what we can do is, since it's inside our item builder, we can always extract the widget. So what we can do is we can create a new folder, call it widgets, and we can create a new file, call it note card. And we can create a new stateless widget. To create a new stateless widget, all you have to do is STL, and you get an option to create a Flutter stateless widget. we're going to create it and we're going to call it note card. Alright, and here what we can do is we can copy all this code and paste it just like so. Alright, and we can quickly get rid of these errors. We can hover over here and go to a quick fix and say import material. Alright, and remove the unused imports as well. Okay, so all we need is a notes, the object of current note and also its index. So what we will say is final note, then we can import it here as well, and also say final index, and here we can say add final field parameters, so it automatically adds them for us. And instead of this notes index, what we can directly say is note, because there's just one object here and that's what we have to deal here. Alright, that's all we have to do. And in our home screen we can replace this whole card thing with a note card, pass in a note, and should be notes index of the notes, and the index because we are getting it from the item builder itself. Okay, pretty clean. The next thing that we need to focus is to reading our notes. So as we click on the note, nothing really happens. So what we have to do is we'll go back to our note card, right? We need to click on card. We're going to click on the bucket appears and say wrap with widget, and we are going to call it inkwell. We'll wrap it with inkwell, right? And then say on tap, so that we can capture if the user has tapped on a card, right? Okay, to read a new note, we'll create a new screen. We'll right click here, create a new file and say note view, note_view.dart, right? And we'll also create a stateless widget here because definitely it is something that's not going to change. Okay, so we'll create note view, right? And in here we'll need a note object. We'll quickly import this. And we need the index of the note, just like that. Okay, and once again we can hover here, go to quick fix and say add final field formal parameters. Okay, and it automatically does that for us. Okay, we'll remove unused imports as well. Alright, we can remove that later. Once again we will return a scaffold, and in the scaffold we are going to have an app bar. In the app bar there should be a title, that's going to be a text widget, and we're going to say note view, right, just like that. And we can maybe make it constant just so that the squiggly line disappears. Okay, moving forward, what we can do is we can build a body, and we will be having a padding advanced because padding is important from the UI point of view, and we can call it a constant padding. And say 10 for now, that just works. Okay, and in the child of this again we will need a column because it's going to be a title and a body, one below the other, right? All right, so all we need are two text views just to show our title and our body, right? Okay, so what we can do is we'll just go to our column and we will create children, right? Inside children we'll have a text field, not field actually, you can call it a text view, maybe a text widget. And what we need is a note dot title, and we need some basic styling for this. So we'll just say style, and we'll say const text style, and we need a font size, say 26 for now. All right, and then we need one more text field, so why not just copy this and make the font size a little smaller. Let's make it 18, and instead of title let's refer the body. Okay, and just to have some space between these two text views, we can say const sized box, let's give it some height, let's say 10, right? Okay, now maybe we can use we can remove unused imports. Okay, makes sense. All right, now let's do some wiring here. We'll go back to our note card, and inside the on tap method we will say navigator of context dot push material page route, and we'll say context, and we're going to say note view. Yes, it automatically passes the note and the index for us, so that's sweet. Okay, we're going to save it. Let's quickly rerun the app just to make sure everything's working fine. Okay, now let's create a new note. Let's say title 1. Some gibberish there, and we can save it. There you go. And once we click on it, the new note is visible. Okay, and let's once again go to the note view, and inside column let's go to cross axis alignment and say cross axis alignment to be start. Yes, okay, looks much better. So yeah, you can now also create notes and you can also view them. Alright guys, let's now focus on deleting this note. So we'll go to our note view, alright, and in the app bar here we'll pass a property that's actions. Inside actions we just need an icon button, so we'll say an icon button. For now we'll just have an empty function in the on press, and the icon should be an icon widget const dot delete. Okay, so that when you click on this card, it shows a button just like that, but nothing's going to happen because the on press method is empty as of now. Okay, alright, so what we want is when the user clicks on the delete button, we wish to show a pop-up. We really wish to show an alert dialog where we ask the user if he really wants to delete it, and then we'll have two buttons, one that says cancel and the other that says delete. Okay, to show a dialog, what we just do is we can directly say show dialog, and yes, this is an inbuilt function, right? It generates few lines for us. Let's see what we can do with them. Okay, so the builder needs context. Okay, and in the context we're going to return an alert dialog. Let's put a semicolon just to make it happy. Okay, and the alert dialog has some properties. So the very first one is the title itself, and the title is a widget, so we're passing a text widget there. We'll say delete this and ask a question mark, and then we're going to have some content, once again another text widget, and then we're going to say note with the following title, and the title we can interpolate using string interpolation, having a dollar sign and then curly braces, so that we can access the note variable and the title. Yes, and this note will be deleted. Okay, and let's make this squiggly line disappear by saying const. Okay, and if you're in case if you're wondering why we don't have to pass const here, is because we are using interpolation here, and since this depends upon a variable that can change, so we cannot mark it constant, right? Excuse me. All right, now we need to pass few actions, and in the name of actions we merely have two buttons, so we can just use text buttons here. Okay, and once again an empty function as of now, and the child will be once again a text widget itself. Okay, let's pass the text here. We'll say delete, and again mark it const, and then we need another text button, so we are going to just copy this, we are lazy, and we'll say cancel. So as soon as the user clicks cancel, all we have to do is just make the pop-up disappear. So for that, what we can do is we'll just say navigator dot of context dot pop. This will just make the pop-up disappear, and we need to do this when the delete is clicked as well. Let's quickly test it out if the alert is visible. So let's just click here. Okay, so the alert dialog is visible. It just goes away if we click either of the buttons. Nothing huge is going to happen here. All right, so the next thing that we will be focusing on is to implement the deleting of the note, right? So what, if you remember in the beginning, we made a function called on node deleted that needs to be that needs an index as in the index of the note in the list, and it will just remove that note from the list and set the state, right? Okay, let's go back to our note card, and we need to access that function somehow. So first of all, let's go back to our note view, and we need a function that says final function, and it needs an integer, and we can call it on note deleted, right? And we'll also pass it in here as well. All right, and then to access this function, it should be available to us here in the note card as well. So to have it being available in the note card, we need to go into home screen, right? Okay, just the note card, and in here we will again create another variable. We're going to copy it from here, go back to our home screen, to the note card first. We're going to paste it, okay, and then we are going to pass it here as well. All right, all we have to do is pass this function in our home screen. So inside our note card, okay, it's not asking somehow. Okay, so we have everything that we need here. There was a stupid error there. Okay, so we also have this function here on node deleted. We are passing this very function. We can save it here, and don't worry about the error. If we restart the app, it will just go away. Okay, and now what all we have to do is call this function as soon as the node is deleted. Okay, so in here what we can do is we can say on node deleted and pass in the index that we just received over here, this one. Okay, and once that is done, we need to pop the screen once again so that the current visible screen also goes away, right? So let's again restart our app, supply some title here, say testing, save it, open the note, select delete, say cancel. Okay, cancel just works. Let's click on delete. Okay, the notes finally disappeared. Well, alright, this is how you create a basic note taking app in Flutter. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you find it useful, do give a like, do subscribe to the channel for future updates. We'll also be seeing how to connect it to Firebase, Node.js, MongoDB, all those good stuff. And do leave us a comment if you have got any suggestions for us. This is DartBucket signing off.